You know, this is what every single last king needs to understand. Currently, damn, my head is pretty big, but damn, I think that's a girl I went to school with in the past. I don't know. They all look the same. You feel me? They all look the same. Whatever. She's irrelevant. But nice. Nah, not as good as a car as mine. But anyway, you know, currently I'm in the cut. You feel me? I got the whole crib to myself. Gonna go back to school tomorrow. You feel me? I'm only up here because the Six Flags trip on Saturday. You feel me? Stayed the weekend. You know, got nothing to eat for real. But I'm just being still with myself. You know, self-reflecting, going deeper into my studies. You feel me? That's what I do in my free time. I go deeper into self. More realizations, more epiphanies. You feel me? We just go deep. But anyway, ego, desire, you know, pride, all the desires of self, all of those can only take you so far. All of those can only take you so far. And, you know, I first started all of this like 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. I don't know when. I forgot. 2020. You know, I remember I started all of this. And originally, everything started basically off of the desires of self. Back then, you know, of course, you know, it started off of, well, you could say it started off of love too, you feel me? Because I did want my first love back, you know, and I wanted, you know, like I already made the whole video, but it basically started off of me wanting her back. You know, I want to be a better man and stuff like that. I felt insecure. And I wasn't whole. And I decided that, you know, I was going to be better to basically, you know, to basically like, to get her back and to keep her. Cause, you know, even though, you know, she was fucking with me, I didn't feel good enough at all, you know. So I started all of this. All of this was born originally from that desire, you know. And those things, they can only take you so far. You know, a lot of guys, they start all of this off, you know, for girls, for external validation, for wanting something external, you know, not for themselves. You know, they don't do it off of themselves, off of just, you know, their own. It's something, it's an external want. And most of the time, you know, it's a lot of guys, they do it because they want girls and stuff like that. You know, they want to either crack or they want the validation of having a girlfriend, you know, some type of desire. And it's like I said, those things, you know, ego, desire, pride, all the desires, they can only take you so far because it's simple. They're rooted in something external. They're not, you know, the why doesn't come from you. It doesn't come from you being your own constant. It's not true purpose. It's not pure purpose. It's something external. It's something that is dependent on something else. And one thing that I'm really starting to learn is that when something isn't, you know, when something doesn't come from like you being your own constant, when something is rooted in the external, it's all going to fall apart. It's all going to F up, you know. Like, let's say when it's love that is tied to need and want, like, oh, I love you because I'm getting something from it. You know, I love you because of what you give me back. It's going to crumble because the foundation is not solid. The foundation is built off of something external, as opposed to when it's pure purpose, when the why is, when it's a pure why, when you're your own constant, then so much could be built off of it because the foundation is solid. The foundation is rooted in true purpose. Like when it's love that is from the expression. Love that, you know, comes to you because you're already whole. Love that isn't for the want or the need or the gain. You know, when it's like that, you could really go far. And that applies to purpose as well. When a purpose is solid, when a purpose is you rooted in yourself, like, you know, my purpose is in the becoming, in the battle against self, you know, and that purpose took a long time to manifest. But you have to understand, you know, the desire, the desires of self, all the desires of self, they all led to that point. You know, first, you know, everything sorted me myself. First, it's like what I said, things were born from the desire to get that specific girl back. Then when that failed, you know, of course, everything crumbled, you know, the purpose, the why crumbled, you lost yourself, You know, you lost yourself because you didn't really know yourself. And then another purpose came after that. What's my other purpose after that? My other purpose after that was, you know, into external as well, to get external validation, you know, to prove them all wrong, and, you know, to ultimately get what I want. This is me at like 18, 19. I remember back then, you know, I wanted to get clout and money and basically, you know, all this status to become a high value male, to get the girls and to prove them all wrong, basically to get validation, you know. And, you know, of course I was chasing that. And then chasing that caused me to suffer. I suffered chasing that. And I suffered the suffering that came from chasing that. You know, the reason I suffered chasing that was because when I didn't get it, I felt terrible. You know, I would put all this work in and I still didn't get the results I want. You know, I remember being upset because I viewed guys that were lesser than me getting what I want. And it just caused a lot of suffering. All that suffering, it's like what I said, there was meaning from it. It wasn't meaningless. All that suffering was there to show yourself so you could eventually move past yourself. So nothing is meaningless. You know, it all starts as a ladder, you know, and the ladder, you know, on a ladder, everything's connected. Everything serves a purpose, you know, even the low moments, you know, even the suffering, it all serves the same purpose. It serves the purpose of ultimately showing yourself and leading to that pure purpose. You know, all that suffering led to me knowing the purpose outside, not dependent, not defined by any of them. The purpose only defined by self, only defined by me, which is the purest of purposes, the battle against self, which, you know, I studied every religion, I studied everything. Everything leads back to that battle, you know, everything leads back to that battle. And that is basically what this life is about, the battle against self. That is what this life is about. But everything, you know, I wouldn't have arrived to that pure purpose that doesn't care about anything external. You know, it only cares about the becoming. If I didn't originally, you know, start off in that, you know, that chasing state, you know, that state where, you know, what I did, the why was for the desire, for the pride, for the ego. You know, I wouldn't have led to that point. So everything, you know, serves a purpose, but those things can only take you so far because simply they're all built on the external. And another lesson of love too, when you love like that, when your love is tied to the external, when it's from the need, the gain, and the want, you know, it's not, first of all, it's not true love because, you know, ultimately you are in a way selfish. You're only loving a person because of what they give you, and it's going to collapse because let's say a slip up happens, you know, it has a less likely, I mean, you know, it can last because, you know, some things they evolve into like, you know, how do I put it? You know, it can last, you know, but it just won't be true love. It won't be true, transformative, divine love, you know. What I basically meant is that the like a partnership could last, but what really won't last is the love. The love won't last. That's what I mean. So what you really have to understand is you really have to find a purpose past yourself. You know, it can't be rooted in anything external. The why can't come from anything external. The why can't be defined by any of them. The why can only be defined by self. And life will test you on if your why, if your purpose is rooted in any of them or if it is rooted in yourself. Like, for example, you know, it's just gonna, you know, things are just gonna fuck up. You feel me? Like, you know, you're not gonna be getting the results you want. Things are gonna be going your way. That's all it testing if the why is truly from you, if the why is truly defined by you, not defined by any of them, you know. And, you know, I also see this playing on love too. You know, your girl, she's gonna be a bitch some days and stuff like that. You know, she's not gonna be giving you what you want. She's gonna be difficult to deal with. And that is you being tested on whether or not your love comes from need, or it's tested on whether or not your love comes from want and need, or if it's from expression, you know. So life, this stage, this play, is going to test you on what you're really about, basically, you know. And those are all just things I learned, you feel me? I'm a student, you know, I'm a student. All of them, they're all my teachers. They all reflect me back to myself, you know. But anyway, I hope you took something away from this. These things, they can only take you so far. They're good to start out. They're good to start off with, but you know, they're not the end game. They're not the end goal. You know, you're gonna get what you want. You might even get what you want, but you're gonna realize something's missing. Is this really what they're all, you know, is this really what there was to it? Like, you know, let's say I got what I wanted, something in me would have been like, damn, you know, something in me would have just been restless. It would have been like, you know, this ain't it. You know, this constant ache of becoming what has still been there. But anyway, that's all I got to say.